I had a hobby too. Mine happened to be guns and ballistics, and I studied guns and ballistics as much as I could, and I wrote an article about high velocity.
So out of all my years working at Weatherby, the last 5 have been some of the most exciting. Working with Adam, with him running the company.
And to think that I get the opportunity of carrying on my grandfather's legacy 75 years later here in Sheridan, Wyoming, I mean, it really is a dream come true.
Oh, I'm home. Thank God I'm home.
On Our Mark, the Weatherby Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of On Your Mark, the Weatherby Podcast.
It's not on your mark, it's on our mark.
Did I say your mark?
You did.
On your mark? It's On Our Mark.
It's right there.
It's on the TV screen that I'm reading. So welcome back to another episode of On Our Mark. I am the host for now, unless I keep messing this up. I am joined by Luke Torkeldson.
Hi.
And Adam and Brenda Weatherby.
Hello.
Hello.
This is going to be a fun one. So this is episode 82, and exactly 40 episodes ago, we talked about Africa, which was Adam's first time to Africa.
It was my 5th time to Africa. First time hunting Africa.
First time
Yes.
hunting.
Uh-huh.
So on this episode, you guys, you three, not me, went on a sweet African adventure.
Yeah, we did. It was, adventure is a good word for it.
Yeah. You guys were gone for like...
Well, and it was more than a hunt. It was more than an adventure. We probably need to preface this from the beginning because this was like, I don't know, 40% hunt, 60% mission trip, or 50-50, somewhere in there. I don't know exactly how the percentage break down, but we can't avoid that part of the trip because it's key to the whole story.
Yeah, and I've gotten small tidbits. I've been trying not to ask too many questions so that we can do these podcasts and really download what you guys did. But let's just start. I don't care, Luke or Adam. Maybe just start with the premise behind the whole trip and when you guys first learned about it, because then there's even all the planning of getting guns and doing all those things over there. So,
Sure. Yeah, the context is this. I have a friend that I've known for probably about 15 years that Brenda and I have known. His name is Gerard. Looks like Gerard, but it's not. It's Gerard. He's South African.
I call him Garage.
Actually, a bunch of people over there do.
I call him Jit.
that's a cool nickname.
Yeah,
What
they
did
call it
you call
Jit.
Jit.
That's a
Like
nickname.
legit.
Like legit, yeah.
But they'll call him Garage, but his name's Gerard. Known him for a long time, and over 15, maybe 20 years ago, started a ministry over there, being South African himself, to work with a lot of the people there in South Africa and do a whole lot of things with youth, and so does a lot of Christian ministry work with youth, things from summer camps to a year-long program where some young adults come and actually live and get training in a whole variety of things from the Bible to just leadership and a lot of just life skills and things. They work in a lot of small, remote, very impoverished villages and do ministry, after-school programs there, work with a lot of families. So they really are pretty vast in a lot of things that they do over there in South Africa. Jabulani African Ministries, or JAM, is his ministry. It's been around a long time. It's been predominantly supported by donations, like many ministries are in Africa and around the world. And Gerard had a vision to raise funds via some form of business over there in South Africa. Being a passionate hunter himself, he went out and pursued getting his professional hunter, PH license, and started a thing called Phambili Safaris. Phambili is, I believe, a Zulu word for thinking forward. Mm-hmm. And so he started it. And there's a website that already exists for that. And if somebody were to book a safari with Phambili, 40% of what they were to pay, and their both animal fees and daily fees and everything, goes 100%. The 40% goes 100% to the JAM, his ministry. And so it's a way to fund that. It's actually tax deductible and goes to that. He pitched me this idea maybe a year ago or so and told me about what he was doing and said, man, I need to really kind of get the idea going in the States and maybe some help kind of, you guys have a brand and kind of talk about it. And so he said, why don't you come over here and see what we're doing? Mm-hmm. So we decided to go over and experience it, both the hunt. Also part of the ministry part is also meat distribution. So through the hunt, it's all donated to his areas where he does ministry in these villages, and we got to experience a little bit of that. So part of Phambili Safaris is not just the donation of the money, but it's also the meat distribution as well. So we went over to hunt, to do meat distribution, and to do ministry in the village, and ultimately make a film to help promote Phambili Safaris to help fund Jabalani African Ministries. There's the 4-minute.
That was very concise, actually. I mean,
Seeming
there's a
it
lot
is.
going on. Yeah. I've
what
been working on the video a little bit on the travel back, and it's a tough story to tell. This is like, how do you jump into all of it at the same time? But yeah, that's great audio.
Yeah, one of the things that jumped out to me is like the percentage that goes back directly to the ministry. That seems like a bigger percentage than what I've heard other, hunt outfits out there. You always talk about like the meat and all that stuff staying local, but that percentage of the money, I know that there's always those things with Africa where they could end up maybe not in the right places. So that was kind of a cool number to hear.
I mean, most safaris are profit-based. They're making a profit, but he's taking all of his profit and it's going back into leadership training. So, and it doesn't support him. He has financial support for his own living. Mm-hmm. So it's truly to his ministry, truly to having like boots on the ground, leaders trained, and, African leaders trained for dynamic change in that country. So they always say that South Africa, their biggest challenge is leadership, that there's so much corruption. And so there's a lot of different ministries, Herard's being one of them, that is targeting that young people and developing those leadership traits from a very young age because their parents aren't teaching those things. So
It was really neat to see it all play out. Adam had described, I'd met Garage briefly before we went when he was in our office, and I knew the premise, but being able to be there and see it play out as Adam described was pretty amazing. And Brenda taught on leadership at this last day that we were there, working with the local church leaders and local pastors, and it was really cool just to see them like kind of some aha moments, because a lot of what you talked about was accountability, which there's not a lot of there, just culturally. Yeah. And it was cool. It was really cool.
So let's back up. Let's start getting a timeline here. Let's talk logistics. Maybe talk about how you guys got there, and then start giving us a day by day, and then we'll get into how the ministry tied into your guys' kind of day to day or like after the hunting.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is we're going to get there and then spend, a few solid days hunting and see what we could get down on the ground and just have a good experience doing that and get some film doing that. And we were testing some new product as well. So some things that aren't released yet, as we always do when we hunt.
Almost every time.
Yeah.
So the trip, kind of ticked a lot of boxes, if you would. So really it was about getting there and, flew into Johannesburg and then, drove a few hours from there to where their kind of base is and where we're going to do the hunting out of and all those sorts of things.
Hey, hold on just a second now. You made this flight to Johannesburg sound so easy.
Yeah, was it just you kicked back, it's 15-minute flight? No.
I just knew we got a long trip to talk about. This can't be a 9-hour podcast.
I just want people to understand that getting over there
Africa's a long ways away.
is so far. Was it 15 hours from Newark to Joburg?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a long flight.
The way back was longer because I was sick.
Oh, no.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a long ways to get there. Permitting the firearms are always a pain. I mean, that's one of the things that's a turnoff for some people to even go hunt in Africa. I mean, it's a long ways to get there. It's logistically tough. The firearm part is tough. And then we went last week of February, which it's very early for when people would go. And so it's still their summer. And more towards the end of their summer. So it was very hot. There were a lot of ticks. It was
there were so many ticks.
Very green with a lot of tall grass.
It was beautiful, but...
Beautiful.
Like the first, like what we have here in the States?
No. No.
Times 1,000.
The first 5 minutes of walking through some grass, we all had long pants on. Thank goodness.
They all had shorts on.
It was like in the 90s.
We got really comfortable at flicking ticks off of each other.
I'm not kidding. 5 minutes in, there's at least 10 ticks on each of us. Not joking.
That does not sound fun. That's my least favorite thing in the world. I'd take spiders and snakes.
Oh
No
gosh.
ticks.
There was snakes involved.
Maybe not snakes.
Yeah, no, we
There were
got
snakes.
we got there and
So 15-hour flight.
yeah.
Couple hour drive.
Yeah,
Or-
yeah, 3 maybe or something.
Yeah,
like
and so Adam was about to talk about this. I'll tee it up a bit more. But we're driving in the car 3 hours from Joburg. We actually stopped in Pretoria at one of our customers and talked to them a little bit. Safari Outdoor. That was really cool.
Yeah.
Really nice shop.
Yeah.
You should stop in and see it.
Yes.
Go through.
Stefan?
Yeah.
Stephen?
Our guy is Helmet, but
Yeah.
there's some
Yep.
counter
But
guys.
we
Yeah,
met
yeah.
we met
Some
some
other
kind
guys.
of professional hunters
We
there
did,
with that.
yeah.
That was pretty cool. Yeah.
So after that stop, we were driving up to where the lodge is or the housing, and Adam's like, "What about snakes?" And he's like, "Never seen a snake. There's really not that many snakes here."
And then basically all trip long, we just heard about snakes. So that night, he goes, yeah, well, or no, the next morning. So we go in, we get there, we drive around, we see some animals, we sight in our guns, just verify zero.
Standard first day things.
Standard operating procedure. Then we get up the next day, and he's like, yeah, well,
It's a 4 a.m. wake up call because it's summer in very south. And
Gotta beat
so
the heat.
You got to beat the heat, and the sun comes up early, so it's like a 4 a.m. start.
So I'm up at like 4 having coffee with Gerard, and he's like, yeah, well,
Marcus.
Marcus
Marcus.
is going to be a little bit late because his wife last night walked out on the porch and a cobra spit in her eye.
So they're worried about her vision.
she's
That's not
temporarily
good.
blind. We're like, wait, what? I thought there was no snakes.
That's not common though.
No, never happens. There's really no snakes in Africa.
Yeah. Well, and while we're talking about snakes, so at the end of the trip, we're at this village and we're staying in these circular huts, and they're like, hey, there's towels under the door because of snakes. Like if you go to the bathroom, check all around the toilet. And
Because we saw a cobra
yeah,
a
there's
couple days ago.
And then they're like, that was when we got in Namibia. And they're like, yeah, we just haven't seen black mamas in a long time. Well, till last week. and then we saw a puff adder. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
This
So-
is making me rethink my whole tick comment.
So the morning after
said
they warn us at the village about the snakes and the towel on the door, I go to put my shoes on to go outside, and my foot won't go all the way in my shoe. And something moves in my foot. And I pull my foot out because there's cobra in my shoe and in my mind, which I don't know how it would fit in there. But a frog jumps out of my shoe, like at me.
I bet your heart sank. My heart
It is
sank.
not a good way to
listening
wake
it.
up. Yeah, pretty funny.
All right, so what is the sleeping conditions? Is this like huts, hotels? What do we got going on?
he's
on
got
this
like a
border?
ministry center there now with some cool kind of guest rooms he's got set up. Eventually, he's going to be building more of a hunting lodge, which is his next phase of doing things there. So, so no, we're indoors.
Very comfortable.
Yeah, very comfortable place. Yeah, it was good. So that first day, we were going out to like a 15,000 acre, they call them farms over there. We call them ranches here. Super hilly country, like not what very hilly and very wooded, not what you'd expect kind of African.
Yeah, I'm
hunting to
picturing
be.
like savanna plains, like
No, that's what I pictured too, and it was not that.
That's kind of like your Namibia. It's a little more savanna plains and seeing animals roam. But yeah, this was
like
very lush.
mountainous.
which is right up the Weatherby's alley, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we, over there they call them buckies. So we just, it's so fun. You get up in the morning early and you just ride around in a bucky and you see what the bush is going to provide. And we did end up doing a lot of glassing there. And that first day we ended up doing about a 4-hour hike in the heat through like a creek bed gorge type of thing. Got a million ticks on us. And actually saw the least amount of animals we did the whole trip.
Yeah,
But it was still really cool.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
And following this creek bottom, there's a couple little waterfall spots, and it was really pretty.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I've heard this term a couple times to see what the bush would provide. Are you going to like, hey, we're going to hike up this and we're going to target this animal? Or is it truly like you might see whatever?
Brenda?
Well, I mean, this is my second African safari, and literally Africa is so blessed with so much game and they all intermingle so much that you don't know what you're going to come across. So I think it truly is like if you're going to go out hunting and you don't have your tags and seasons, so it's always in season. So really the best way to hunt is to not target an animal. That just leads to frustration. And when you go to an African safari, the more animals you hunt, the better. So it's best to just see what you come across. And if you find a mature animal and you look around the car and you're like, hey, does anyone want a wildebeest? And someone goes, I will. And then you go do the stalking, you do it, and then you get back on and you do it again. So it's like, it's a very different type of hunt than what we would normally do, looking for one species or maybe two and taking 5 days to do it. We're going to talk about all the animals we got down in 3 days. You would never do that here. So it's a very unique experience where you have lots of opportunities to stalk, blow a stalk, do another stalk, harvest something, so in that sense, it's really, really cool. Especially if you have multiple people, you might have gone on 15 hunts or 8 hunts in a 5-day period where we typically are only doing one hunt. Right?
This like reminds me of Wyoming antelope hunting, but with
Yeah.
a ton of different game.
Yes.
Sure, like that,
very
like that.
similar.
And if you blow your antelope stock, you're like, well, let's
We'll go
go get
find
another
another
one, right? That's Africa.
It is like
There
that.
are some
It's
species that are different, like maybe hunting mountain kudu are different. Or we went through certain times where, like that first day, we were looking for eland and we knew they were in this area. So a lot of times you do go maybe looking for something, but then that's not the thing you end up hunting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's fun. It's like a mystery every morning.
It is fun.
mystery meat.
All right. So you guys do this big long hike. Is that the whole day or is that the morning thing or is it too hot to hunt in the middle of the day or
It was too hot to hunt in the middle of the day, but we did it anyway.
It's a good point. We actually swam in a river, stuff like that. Took kind of an hour lunch, kind of picnic thing in the middle of the day, and
Cooled off.
yeah, then kept going. But we didn't actually the whole first day. We didn't actually harvest an animal, and we were going to do 3 primary days of hunting here in South Africa because of kind of the rest of the part of this trip. So it actually really put on the pressure for day 2.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I mean, we had multiple animals we were stalking. It just didn't go right. And I think there's also that when you're in the middle of a herd and you're like, hey, I want to get that eland, but there's a zebra and there's springbuck and everything else can mess up that stalk. And so you're working around all these different game. It's really fun.
I actually did kill an eland at the end of day 1, right at sunset. So to back up. So we did get one animal down first day.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Yeah, and some of how we were hunting and why we were hunting an eland first was specific to the end of the trip because we wanted to try to get a bigger, larger animal down so that while we were hunting the next couple of days, the team back at Jam could be processing some meat.
Oh, that's cool.
That was the
Yeah.
idea.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we wanted a bigger animal so that there's more.
And eland are
bang
not
for our
small.
buck.
So we
Yeah.
brought back an eland at the end of the first day. Yep.
No picture of eland on the. If you're,
I don't think
if
so.
you're
I
listening
don't.
to this, Google what is an eland. Yeah, they're pretty cool
Yeah,
looking.
they are cool.
You have to do that with some African animals if you haven't been over there a lot.
Yeah, I got a couple in reach or text, and I'm like, let's Google this real quick, and then the photo would come through.
No, and I was. This was my first trip to Africa ever, and definitely my first African safari. So sometimes you're driving around on the back of the Bucky, and it's really wooded where we were. I'm like, hey, there's an animal there, and it had headgear. I don't know for sure what that was. It was somewhere between a water buck, a gazelle, an eland, a sable, or a blessbok. Not sure which one.
And those are all the names that I know of things here.
Yeah, it wasn't a zebra.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys got an animal down day 1, kind of sunset. Then
Yeah.
you guys get it all kind of processed there. How do they process them in the field? Do they drive right up to it, or
That's a great question, Tyler.
or do you gut it, or like how does that
No,
work?
pretty much over there. It's every culture is different, but the goal on an African safari is you can get the Bucky to the animal, and winch him in whole, untouched.
No gutting.
Okay.
So basically
well, I guess they're going to probably use every single part of that.
They do.
every concession, essentially every concession over there, farm, whatever you want to call it, the private land, each concession has kind of a team of people. So each concession has its own skinner.
Okay.
And so you wanted to let that skinner do his job. And so they try to get the animal back whole. Every single one has a skinning rack, a big chain winch hoist with a gambrel, and they just hoist them up and go to town. And they're like darn good at it. It was impressive.
Yeah.
What's the team? That just you sparked a question. What does the team look like when you guys are out? Where it's you three, a tracker, or like who's all in the? Are you calling it a bucky?
Yeah,
Yeah.
not a buggy.
Bucky with a K.
A bucky. It's like a truck in
Yeah.
Africa.
So
Yeah.
what's the team like? Like, was it just you three, or is there multiple people? Or
It was Adam, Brenda, and I in the back with garage, and then typically driving that bucky would be the ranch manager or basically the PH of that ranch.
But a lot of times you'll end up
concession.
having a PH, and then you have another guy who helps that might do tracking as well and different things like that. So it's often two guys that you're with.
that's cool.
Yeah.
And the skills of some of these people are just amazing. Like, not only are they tracking blood, but they can tell the difference between like every footprint. I mean, it's pretty amazing. They'll start at a certain, like the kill site, and they can track it like just miles all over the place. It's extraordinary. Like they really have a gift of their unique job.
Yeah, like
It's pretty
very
cool.
connected to
Yeah.
Yes.
what they're
Yeah.
doing.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Pretty
Yeah.
cool.
That's a cool concept.
Yeah.
To be like that in tune.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
So that night, what is you guys are probably exhausted if it went all the way to sunset. That sounds like a long
Yeah,
day.
it did. We got back by like 10.
That was a 17-hour day.
I think the next morning I apologized to Gerard's wife, and I said, I'm sorry last night I was really rude. Probably I just was so tired. I probably didn't even answer any questions you asked because she was so sweet. And he really,
Well-
Gerard and Mignon, they're just beautiful people, really authentic people. So they were wanting to connect with us, and I think I just was like,
Well, there's jet
Good
lag
night.
on
Good
top
night.
of the longest day ever. And I played like club soccer in high school in Texas in the summer, like hot. I don't think I've ever felt more dehydrated or afraid of dehydration as I did there in the summer. I don't know if it was because we went from the like straight winter in Wyoming to full on summer with like no in between, but it was hot.
And it's not normally when people go, it's not peak season. They're normally a few months later, and there were a number of reasons why we ended up doing this trip. When
pro
we did
tip, don't go to South Africa
In
to
February.
hunt in February.
If you don't like the heat.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So we the goal for the next day was let's drop a few animals on the ground. So we kind of got the lay of the land the first day, and went back out the next day and just said let's go hunt some things. So that's what we did. So we got out there the next day, and Brenda dropped a really nice blue wildebeest.
Yeah, he was an old bull, which was awesome, and I had never shot a wildebeest, so it was awesome. Yeah, it was a good shot. Got to sit down, and despite all the tall grass, so I was excited. You can see his big bosses there. They're really old and crackly, and he was starting to kind of deteriorate as his frame. So he was a great bull to take, and provided a lot of good meat. So
Yeah. I think, Gerard, you asked her in a video interview and said, hey, how many meals do you think this will provide?
Oh, yeah.
And I think he said 250,
Yeah.
meals.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
yeah.
From the one wildebeest.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
And that
Yeah.
just got like the ball rolling at this
Yeah.
point.
And it's kind of cool. That's an interesting perspective on how you asked that, because it's like you can see this big animal. It's really cool trophy, right? But then you're like, put it in perspective of how many meals,
Yeah.
which is kind of a cool way to think about it.
And like for me, like I love the trophy aspect of it, but for me, even personally, like I hunt to fill my freezer, and like that is really what drives me. And this was so different because I was filling other people's freezers, and so it was a different aspect than I've had in the past. So it was really cool to be part of. Yeah. fill other people's freezers.
Yeah, Brenda made a great shot. I mean, it was a heart shot on the wildebeest, 300 Weatherby. It was awesome. I don't know what it was, 250 yards maybe or something. I can't remember. But it was,
Something like that.
yeah, it was
Yeah,
just
it's right around 250.
Yeah, it was just awesome. Your first wildebeest, I think,
Yeah.
too. So.
And they're such cool animals if you've ever seen them. They're just kind of weird, funky animals. So, and they're everywhere, and they're very plentiful, and so it's a perfect animal to take.
When we
Yeah.
do launch a video and photos, you were mentioning his bases. There is some cool texture. I know Luke got a couple of really cool photos that were.
Yeah,
like,
I don't have one on this.
Typically, and
slideshow,
they're
but-
called bosses, and
Bosses.
the older they are, and they become just more gritty and rough and weathered, and so you can tell that they're an older bull.
That's cool.
The same thing on buffalo and
Yeah,
stuff like
they're weird animals. All the animals over there are kind of weird. This
They have
one's, like,
golden
special.
wildebeests that are really awesome. I really wanted a golden wildebeest,
Yeah.
but that will have to wait till next time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so this
always
is
the
a-
thing. It sends you back because there's always more animals to
Yeah.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we got the wildebeest into the Bucky hole, as we talked, and so then we took it back to the skinning shed. And on the way back to the skinning shed,
Which is probably an hour drive, I'll bet.
yeah, this concession was quite
Huge.
large and
Huge.
not flat. So
Like on
we-
ranch roads, you know.
Yeah,
Ranch
like
roads.
in and out of 4 Low kind of thing. On the way back, we passed a small group of zebras in a really cool spot, and so we get the wildebeest, and we're like, "Hey, we could go shoot that zebra." Like, well, let's see if we could get back and try it. So Adam and Brenda made me, as I didn't actually want to shoot early in the trip. Going over, it was kind of understood I might get to shoot a thing or two, but I was there to run a camera and document this trip. I don't like to. It's like poor form for the camera guy to shoot early, you know.
Yeah.
We
So
forced him.
they kind of made me. And they're like, no, it's for the meat, it's for the kids.
For the kids, yes.
So that's basically what happened. So we took another trail up above the zebras, basically, and they hadn't
It was
moved far.
So it was a herd of.
There was 3 or 4.
3, yeah.
Yeah.
So this was different. We went back, dropped the wildebeest off,
Mm-hmm.
but we'd seen these other zebra, and there was a really nice stallion in it, like
Stallion,
really
Yeah.
dark, really big, really
Yeah.
mature. Yeah.
Yeah, he was big boy.
That's
And
cool.
I mean, the zebra is gonna in terms of meat, dwarfs the wildebeest.
Really.
And as Gerard says,
You don't
it's
think that, but it is.
it's the best pound for the dollar, pound for pound, like
Best value.
best
Yeah.
value of meat, actually, zebra, and it tastes phenomenal.
Yeah, because they're pretty muscly. What is
Yes.
is it bigger than a horse? Like truly a
No,
horse?
No,
or
not bigger.
No.
Like
shorter, more stocky.
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But think donkey.
Donkey. Okay, donkey size.
but
Burro
like a
size.
full
Yeah.
donkey.
Yeah,
you know,
big-
some
big
donkeys are
donkey.
really
Yes.
skinny. No. Like
No.
a
No,
big, robust.
They're dense.
They are
Dense.
so dense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we got out and started walking through the trees, and they were kind of where we expected them to be. And Garage wanted to make sure that we shot a male zebra, a stallion, and we made it really obvious for us, which was good. he was urinating, and so it was pretty obvious that it was a boy. So we were able to check that out, and then there were some warthogs kind of just milling about. It was really cool, just African scene.
And we were up
we were
on a hill, really steep hill, in really wooded, looking down on them. So
Yeah.
they had no idea we
Yeah,
were there.
it felt like we're on the side of a mountain shooting down into a little flat area, and because that's what it was. And
And they're just doing zebra things because you guys put the sneak on.
Yeah.
yeah,
He was
they-
in the
grazing.
shade.
he was in the shade. They were
grazing.
just kind of chilling, and
Grazing.
yeah, we
cool.
we let the 300 Weatherby
Do its
let
thing.
it do its thing, and
Good
it,
shot. Great shot.
it went 30 yards
Maybe.
and
Yeah.
then just
What were the two
Piled up.
calibers that you guys were using?
We had 3
Brenda
total.
shot the wildebeest with the 300 Weatherby, and then I used the 300 Weatherby on the zebra. So
We also
and,
had a 257 Weatherby and a 6.5 Weatherby RPM. Those are the 3 firearms we had.
yeah, and you shot the Eland the first day with the 300.
Yeah.
So-
Big. We were shooting big stuff. There's just a lot of big stuff over there. And it was so wooded and so dense and really tall grass that it just more horsepower tended to be kind of the go-to for us.
Garage also said that zebras are one of the toughest African animals to kill over there. So I was kind of like, oh, well, let's give it more.
With this being your first time hunting Africa, were you aware of the triangle? like
Yeah.
little.
How'd you know about that, Tyler?
Man,
Real
I do
impressed.
research all the time.
I'm impressed.
I'm a student of the game.
You got
Yeah.
you got a pick there for the YouTube watchers.
do.
There he is.
Oh yeah.
So
Cool.
He's beautiful.
the zebras actually kind of make it easy because of their stripes. So
Okay.
on their shoulder, I don't know if every zebra is the same, but this specific zebra had like a triangle,
They do.
a
yeah,
point.
That's how they're.
And
like
that's
right where you want the bullet to go. And so Garage is like, see that triangle? Put it right there on that, apex of the triangle. And that's what we did.
because that's so interesting. Like if you're thinking of like, oh, I'm an elk hunter, and you aim where you would with an elk, you're almost gut shooting, right? On most African.
Most
animals.
African, the vitals are a little more further forward than North American game.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's interesting. How does that affect the meat then? Because you obviously are wanting to have a good harvest for meat. Is it truly their shoulder? Essentially,
Yeah.
it is. Okay,
Yeah, or at the back of.
back of. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
most of our shots were quartering either two or away. And
that
I
helps.
think we did overall pretty good with
Yeah,
meat
didn't really ruin
situation.
a lot of meat at all.
No.
Actually, yeah.
I think my wildebeest was the only one that I got right on the shoulder, and that front shoulder was kind of not as useful.
But
Yeah.
wildebeest
I
can
don't
run
remember.
too, and so taking their
Yeah.
shoulder out can sometimes not be a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was pumped. The zebras are absolutely gorgeous. There's, if you can see in the picture, but there's kind of almost a reddish hue to the white of the zebra, and they've been rolling around in this red dirt. And when you slap it or touch it, there's just kind of like this dust cloud that comes up. But
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's going to clean up because when we went to the taxidermist later, everyone's just black and white.
Yeah, I'm like looking at this picture. So if you're not watching the YouTube, you should. But the horses have like a mane, but their mane's kind of like a mohawk.
Yeah,
it
is.
does. It
Yeah.
stands up,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
it's
that's
like
cool.
the stripes meet there. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So we actually then said, hey, I think we could get this back and maybe go get one more animal before dark potentially. So we went and dumped it off and went around last hour of shooting light. Brenda had on her list a Nyala, which those are really cool animals, very beautiful, that we hunted, that we never ended up, they eluded us and we had some stocks on some, but they're can really hang out in the thick stuff and not come out, and so never were able to get a shot on a Nyala. And so that night, though, we drove around and we found a herd of Impala rams. And so it is, by the way, if you haven't been over there, it's hard to know what's a ram
Very
and a ewe
confusing.
and a bull and a cow. If you take an Nyala-sized animal, that's actually a bull and a ewe because it splits it, and anything smaller than that, like an Impala, a blessbuck, springbuck, are all ram and ewes. Anything larger, like a sable or an eland or a kudu, are going to be bulls and cows. So it's a little bit different.
It is.
Yeah, you got to kind of figure it out when you're over there. So we saw some Impala rams, and we hopped out. And Brenda, you can take over from there.
I'm trying to remember. I think all I remember is I was using the Deluxe, the 257, and Gerard and Adam kept changing which ram I should shoot.
Well, they were actually, and I'm running the camera because it was so frustrating for me too, and I'm frustrated because I'm like going back and forth between these animals, and I actually like pulled Garage aside, and I don't even know if you heard me, but I was like, Garage,
Pick one.
you need to pick one and focus on that one.
So with is there like a herd? Is there a 10 or
Well,
No, there was like three
there
or
was
four.
like 3 good rams. Obviously, I don't know which one was the best because they kept changing which one I was focusing
But they were
on.
behind this bush, and so they would
Well,
walk out
lots of
on one
bushes.
side or the
Yeah,
other.
yeah.
So it was like we were just kind of, the sun was going down. It was actually in our eyes.
Oh, right. Oh, left.
And so
I think they were really rushed, but I'm not rushed when I hunt, or I
the sun
really
was
mess
going
up.
down.
Well,
was
I'm
going
not
down.
rushed.
And a wildebeest was looking at us. The problem over there is all the other animals. The hard part is doing a stalk on an Impala and not having a wildebeest or a Nyala or something else like bloop,
Mess it
just
up.
pop up and snort and just run through and drive everything out. So that's one of the biggest challenges of hunting Africa is there's so much game, and that can happen to you a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was great. I finally, I was on sticks. I'm not good at standing sticks, So I kept trying that, and I finally just threw the sticks to the side and found a tree and did my thing, and finally got centered on one and made a good shot.
Great shot.
Yeah, it was awesome.
200 something yards, kind of standing on a tree on an impala whose vital zones. I mean, impala are just tiny.
Yeah.
And so,
They're very
Like
slender.
smaller than an antelope?
Like
Or
a
about-
Oh, yeah.
slender,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
a very slender deer. Like they're slender.
Like a slender
just
antelope.
thin.
Slender antelope, yeah.
Yeah.
But she, one shot, thing ran 25 yards and fell over dead. And we got some amazing sunset photos.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Pound for pound, that one doesn't come out on top. But beautiful animal and just so classic Africa.
Yeah, they're
you know?
probably
Especially
like
South
65
Africa.
pounds. I think that's
There's
right.
probably
I
more
was
yield
saying
than
the impala.
grouse hunting out here. though,
Yeah,
so.
especially South Africa. There's impala everywhere. Actually, I think impala are on Pambili's
logo.
their logo.
Yeah.
So
It's just an iconic animal. Like
Maybe
yes,
kudu.
yes.
I think it's kudu.
Yeah, maybe kudu.
Oh, I'm
maybe.
sorry.
I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like antelope doe, but it's more slender.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So cool.
beautiful animal though.
Yeah, it was awesome. So,
Gosh, they're so reddish looking.
yeah, they actually have, and what's neat is over there, they have some different, they've done blends over the years. They have a black impala that they've now, have and different things. This is your standard common impala. So.
This was the only animal that we actually wanted to touch while we were taking photos because all the rest of them had thousands of ticks
ticks.
on them.
Oh my gosh.
So the impala was
It was
somewhat
intense.
clean.
Impala was just beautiful.
It
so,
was.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean-
So Brenda made 2 phenomenal shots that day. It was a great day.
That's what I like to do.
Man, that deluxe looks pretty on there too.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep, that's for Roy, the classic
The
deluxe
257 deluxe.
257 Deluxe right there.
Yeah.
Testing ground for Weatherby cartridges was over there. And that's what's always so special about going back that I always say is, my grandfather in the 50s and 60s went over there a lot. And my dad as well. And just, there's so much game to shoot and to be able to test that terminal performance, ballistics and, bullets and all the things. So it's cool to be able to go back over there. So to take a 257 Weatherby and a Mark V Deluxe was, kind of an ode to the past.
Oh, I forgot.
Yeah.
What bullet were you guys using on those?
That was a 100 grain Barnes TTSX, and the 300 Weatherby was a 195 grain hammer.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that was day 2 hunting. Got back earlier than the day before. Still late.
Yeah.
Still a long day.
We were still very tired. Yeah.
Are you guys like trying to get a quick bite to eat before you go to bed and then or just pass?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, no, they had great food.
Oh yeah. 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 We weren't hungry,
We were tired and
Yeah.
hot.
but not hungry. It was good. So
Well, so third day, we go to a new concession to look for a sable.
yeah, been on my bucket list and something I'd been wanting to hunt, and thought it'd be fun to just get a real beautiful trophy kind of for this, whole experience and things. If we were able to do that, and so went to try to hunt down a sable. It was a really hot day. And we're in the back of the Bucky. We did about probably a couple-hour hike at the beginning of the morning to really kind of glass and different things to try to find the sable. And wasn't able to. Mid-morning hit. Hadn't seen a sable yet. Saw zebra and blessbuck and, all sorts of other things. Hadn't seen a sable. And then mid-morning we were in the Bucky, and Luke spotted the first sable that we saw.
Yeah, it was bedded in the shade and just like real obvious. It was looking right at us, but the way that their horns are kind of sweeped back, it's like that's not a stick. Yeah.
And we tried to get back. He was kind of close to where the Bucky was and ended up spooking him.
Yeah.
And so we lost him, and it was so wooded there. So wooded.
Very thick.
Really thick.
Like, are these like
tons of
small
brush.
trees, big trees?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Lots of small.
And a lot of them were almost like bushes.
Yeah. It's
so
but
it was-
taller than an animal.
They're not mesquite trees, but think about a mesquite tree with thorns on them. Like everything there is trying to poke you.
Or bite you venomously.
Yeah.
So we ended up then thought maybe where this sable had ran off to, we go hike this hill, and it was 1,000 degrees. We get to the top, it's about noon. We end up hiking back down, and we got back to the Bucky. It's 12:30. We'd been hunting since 6:30. had seen one sable. And it kind of on the way back down, I said, okay, I might not be shooting a sable this trip. And I was totally fine with that. And like, okay, we'll re-gear up for something else if it doesn't work out today. So we get in the Bucky, and there was a pond we had passed him. So we said,
It was a lake.
yeah,
It was
big.
Yeah.
Let's go pull up to this lake, and let's have let's kind of just bust out the cooler and have some biltong, which is their like jerky. They call it biltong. And maybe have a cold Coke and some water and just hang out 15 minutes. Kind of come up with game plan for the afternoon. It was hot.
Yeah, just relax in the shade for a minute.
So we relax in the shade, pulling Cokes out, and across this lake, a giant sable bull comes down to water out of the woods.
Yeah, like at the same time I think when I see it, I'm talking to Garage, and I'm like, hold on. There's something over there. And we're all like, that's a sable. That's a big sable.
Like with your naked eye, just because their horns are so,
500 yards across the water. It was really cool. But it was in a weird spot because we couldn't go left because the lake went way up in the woods and trees, and like that wouldn't work. And the right was kind of
exposed.
Very exposed. So we're like, we're kind of between a lake and a hard place.
So I said, if I can get really stable, I was real confident with the 300 Weatherby at that 195 hammer, and if I can get real stable, then I'd take the shot. And we looked at him; he was very, very nice bull, and so so we set up, but the grass was so tall, and he kept going in and out of the trees that we just kept losing him. He'd come back out, and we ended up sitting on him for about an hour and a half.
Oh, wow.
It was a long time.
Yeah.
And we moved multiple times trying to get a better angle.
Yeah, like up alongside our shore, kind of in the trees and the sticks and the ticks. And
I fell asleep multiple times as well because we had to. I mean, it was cool.
Oh, you're just watching, yeah.
Yeah, we're just waiting for him to come back out. So I think I fell asleep twice.
Yeah.
So Luke had the camera rolling. He'd set that up, and to shoot 500 yards, I wanted to be pretty doggone stable, so I'd get set up super stable for my sable. And
stable for the sable.
Mm-hmm, sitting in the sticks with the ticks, stable on the sable. And all that happened, and we lost him for a while. And finally, he came out, and then you could tell he wasn't grazing. He was going probably just into the trees to go to bed for the heat of the day.
Yeah.
And he's walking away, and it's just his butt at us, and I'm just hoping he turns around, broadside. And he turns around broadside, and as soon as he does, I go, Luke, you ready with the camera? And I let one fly, and through both my scope and as the 300 Weatherby did its thing, outside my scope, I just see this black thing just drop.
Yeah.
Didn't run.
Crushed him.
And so we, at the beginning, get nervous because it dropped like when you spine them, then they're going to get up and kind of go somewhere. And so
It's just like 3 to 4 foot tall grass.
Yeah.
Thick grass.
So we can't see if he's there or not. We're just like.
But he didn't run. He dropped. Luke replayed it on his little camera screen.
Sure.
And I mean, I saw it. It was just
sets down.
Took the weight out on it.
Yeah.
I mean, just boom.
But as soon as he sits down and goes into the grass, can't see him anymore. And so it's like, did they crawl? Because he's on the edge of the trees. He needed to go like forward 2 yards, and we couldn't see him at all because of the woods.
So we waited and sitting there on the scope and just making sure something weird didn't happen. Finally end up going over there to recover him, and he did not go anywhere. And then what's funny is we take our pictures, we look for the bullet hole everywhere.
Whoops.
And couldn't find the bullet hole. And
The in or the out?
No. It's crazy. I mean, it was also so hot and miserable, and there were ticks everywhere. So it's not like we examined for too long. It's not like I was just.
This sable got the tick award.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So gross.
So we asked the guy who was skinning it, hey, can you keep an eye out? So we come back. We actually went out to hunt, which we'll talk about in a little bit, when he was skinning it, and for one last little hunt. And when we did, we came back, and he handed me the 195 hammer and a heart that had been shot through.
Oh, perfect.
Cut in half.
He found the bullet, too?
Yep.
Yeah.
It was recovered under the back shoulder. I mean, it was just a perfect heart shot. And so we thought it was a spine shot. I'd never, at 500 yards, to have an animal that large drop and not move with the heart shot.
It was odd.
It was incredible.
We actually sat almost to the point of frustration. I'm like, we got to get up there, because if it is spine shot, we can't see anything from here. We got to get up there now. But we're like, well, then we're not going to see it for a little while, and if it gets up, but we could see it if it gets up from here. So we're playing all these different scenarios out, and it's an hour. Like, we're just sitting there waiting for this dead animal to get up, but we don't, because we don't know that it's dead.
Yeah. Did it do? Was it intact and shed its petals like a hammer was supposed to?
It was perfect.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's just absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
That's very
Yeah. Yeah, it was so to do it right across a whole water. I mean, I was on the edge of the water. He was kind of up there on the edge of the water. So to just send a bullet 500 yards over water and, have it drop him, in the heart. It was a measured the larger horn on the larger side. There's 42.5 inches long. I mean, it was a very old sable. So pretty exciting all the way around.
Did you guys have your range finding binos? Is it,
Adam did.
Yeah.
Do you know what your guys' elevation was? Was there any
4,000 feet.
Yeah.
So pretty much here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct. The
I always
density
like to know-
altitude due to temperature, though, was different.
That's true. So you're getting real time feed there. That's awesome.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. That bullet wanted to drop, man, just like we did, just like Brenda was.
It was hot. It was real hot.
So we went back to then when they were skinning that animal out, we said, hey, let's go for one last game drive for literally a half hour is about all we had at the end of that day.
You missed our really good lunch because we actually got
Yeah. Got a good lunch.
a really nice lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I did.
The chef cooked us, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
Cooked us.
What was it? If it was that good, if you remember.
What was it?
Oh, it was like eggs and sausage and a bunch of
Oh,
different
yeah,
things.
it
But
was
when
like
you've
a
been
big
out in the
brunch.
field and
Brunch.
It was
Yeah.
like brunchy.
brunch, but it was like at 3.
You can have breakfast any day.
You can.
That's my
anytime.
favorite meal.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
eat breakfast for dinner just about 4 times a week.
Yeah, so Brenda now has 2 animals. Adam's got 2. I've got the zebra, and they're like, let's just go see what the bush provides. We've got literally, what was it, an hour, if that? 40 minutes?
or something?
Yeah. I'm like, okay, we're not going to be picky. Let's go. So we start driving around, and we see a
Thunderstorm clouds start coming in.
yeah.
It was the only time in the trip
It
that
felt
we
good.
were not hot.
It actually felt quite nice.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
So that we see an impala in the woods, and I hesitated. I'm like, Brenda already shot an impala. We need some variety for whatever reason. Yeah. And then it ran off, and they're like, we're gonna see what the bush provides. That it provided that impala. I'm like, I'm sorry. The next thing, we'll just shoot that. So
we round the corner and there's an elephant. Yeah, I'm just kidding.
So a quarter mile later, there are 3 blessed bucks just by a tree. And there's one of them. They want to be very sure that it was a male.
Mm-hmm.
The ewes have horns as well as the rams, so they're a little harder to tell. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you sent me the picture, I did not know what that was. So that one was a cool one.
It was very cool. And so we made a pretty quick decision to get that down, and that it was quick. Shot that one with the 6.5 RPM and went 30 yards, piled up, and yeah, that one was very strong, facing too. So it just went in the chest and out right in front of the back leg. So no meat was hurt, and
That's pretty awesome.
yeah,
I think you have a picture of that one, right?
I do.
Let's see that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
This one was also tick free. The coat on this thing was
It's
so
hard to tell
soft.
from this picture, but if you saw the legs, there's so much different variation of color going on. It was from red, this orange to red to brown to gray. It was really cool.
That's one of the cool things, just being an American and being over in Africa. And the first time you hunt is just the vastness and creativity in the animals, and the horns, the hides, and I don't know, for me, just looking at it, seeing God's handiwork and creativity to just the vastness and difference of all the animals and what they are. So they provide the meat, but they're also just so cool, each individually with their own kind of mannerisms and, looks and all those kind of things. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're not, the scenery in the background of this one looks incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can
beautiful.
see the mountains back there. I mean, the first place that we were at was pretty much all like that.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was really neat.
So we now had a half a dozen animals down and some ministry to go do.
Yeah.
So now the work begins, right?
Exactly.
So we got back that night, and joined the Jam team in the meat locker that Gerard had built up for this Phambili Safaris, because they're going to do the meat themselves, and that's part of kind of what they do. So we got
you're
back
a
that night and
normal
started doing it.
guest of Phambili, I don't think you have to process. your
No,
own meat.
you don't. That was part of our experience, though, and we always do that. We all process our own meat, and it's something Brenda and I do. So we went in and grabbed the knife, and they were making sausage and grinding stuff up, and it was busy in the meat room that night. Like,
There was some
really busy.
big batches of sausage, real big.
And are they like going to cure that, or cold storage, or what are they doing with the types of meat?
That was cold storage, and then we bride it for all the kids
Braai
the
is
next day.
a South African barbecue, a braai.
Yeah. So in that we were processing it, and then we were going to cook it the next day.
But your question is good, because I think originally we were just cutting up all the meat for sausage. And Brenda's like, wait, really? Like backstrap, everything? I think that the people that we're giving this meat to don't get meat. The easiest way to prepare it, the easiest way for flavor, is just to make sausage.
It's what they're used
Versed.
to. They don't.
And it's a loose ground sausage, right?
Yeah, these folks in these remote villages, they'll keep the backstraps and those things for steaks, and they'll use it for their staff there, at Jam. But for a lot of these folks, they also have they call it mince, our ground stuff, and they have that with what's called pup, which is their
It's like a corn.
It's like a corn-based potato.
real white. So it's kind of their
corn paste type of thing.
Yeah.
So they'll have that with mince. So it's more of a simple way that they eat in the villages. So they're not having a fillet with a glass of cab. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we're
And
preparing
actually,
that different.
like you actually had to tell them how to cook it, because they don't have meat to even know how to cook this. And so typically those remote villages, they are eating these white worms that are on trees and chicken feet. Those are their typical proteins. And so even to give them meat, they're like, well, how do I even cook this? It's so foreign to them. Even though we think that Africa, all this meat is getting distributed, it's really
They
most
are,
people
the
aren't,
schools, the schools and government have programs and different things to help feed children and do meat and do a lot of those things. And there are a lot of other hunters and PHs and outfits over there that do distribute meat to different schools and nonprofits and things. So there is a lot there, but there are millions of people. So, some villages don't get that kind of opportunity.
Yeah.
So we spent hours processing meat, getting bags packaged, so that when we go north a couple hours, we can start to deliver this meat to one. The first stop was basically a daycare.
Yeah, it's like a preschool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were there with Pastor Rex, and he kind of told us a lot about, what was going on there. But we show up, and so we'd driven a few hours that next day, to go up there. And these are folks that they partner with, so that's what's neat about it. It's not just handouts and they don't come back, but these are ones that they're actively, doing different ministry things with and training and stuff like that. So we delivered some meat to that preschool that was there, and kind of played with the kids for a while. Did some gunny sack races and some different things, and had fun doing that, and sitting down with Pastor Rex and his wife, and so that was really neat. And then we drove further to the main village that we were going to, that we then spent the next 24 hours in, spent overnight in this village, Mavusa? No,
Yeah.
it reminds you of Mufasa, but it's not. Mavusa. I think it's Mavusa.
Mambusa, I think.
No,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Some of the words over there are so different from our language. It's like, whoa.
So we showed up there in that afternoon. They have, Jam has been working in this village for years and years, almost 20 years. They've been friends with the chief of the, of the tribe there. That's over about 4 or 5 different villages, and this village is one of them. They've developed a relationship. They actually, Gerard and their team got given land. They built a couple of these little buildings on the land. They call it the Dream Center. And they have an after-school program for about 35 families that they know in the community that they can really help. And so these kids walk up this hill to this soccer field and basically kind of this outdoor kitchen kind of eating thing.
And this was a Friday night, which is an open night for, it's not just the 35 Dream Center kids, it's all the kids from this village. There's like 200 kids.
Yeah, so there were 200 kids when we
It was loud
We
and
showed up.
proud and really energetic.
So we played some games with the jam stuff and did a bunch of things with a lot of kids in this village. And then we were also at the same time cooking up a lot of this sausage and did kind of like hot dog things for them. So they actually feed them every day after school. They feed these kids a warm meal that they actually cook up for these kids every day. And so it's part of kind of their ministry to them to feed them as well. Not every day the 200, but every day 35 families worth of kids.
The main thing they're doing in this after school program is they're providing tutoring for school.
Helping with homework.
Yeah, because these South Africans, if they can be well educated, they have a future, and if they are not, they don't really have a future. So that's their main focus, is that tutoring, and then they feed them, and then they do some leadership training and Bible character development as well. But
What is the age range of kids that are doing this?
anywhere from
Assistant.
first grade to eighth grade.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's a pretty even distribution between those.
And it's very organized. They've been there for years. I mean, the kids are very well behaved. They know how to, not abuse the system and do things. So, I've been to Africa before, different countries, as a matter of fact, as well, and done some missions where, it can get out of hand and those kind of things. But Gerard and his team have really said, hey, if we're going to come in, this is the way we're going to do it, and here's how we're going to help you. And, really know that, there's a book Gerard talks about called When Helping Hurts. And at times, if you just go in with handouts and kind of don't have some structure to things, it can actually do more damage in a community than good. And so they've really realized, realize those things. So they really know what they're doing. So,
That's cool.
yeah.
yeah, they have a partnership with the families. So when they give they're also expecting the families to do their part. So if they're going to do like a big garden, then the families need to come and prep the soil, and they need to be part of that instead of just giving them all vegetables to take home. They have a part in that, which is sometimes has been a struggle in South Africa. We all want to help when there's needs, but then that becomes entitlement or becomes not taking responsibility for their own actions. So it's really cool to be in partnership with those types of families. So
Yeah. That's cool.
And some youth of the community came that night too, from the village, and so the jam team did some things with them, really more the next stage up, kind of more teenagers and
Are they
maybe into
learning
early
English
20s.
and stuff too? Or
It's not necessarily at least in my opinion, it doesn't seem like that was a focus, but some of the things that the jam team was doing was in English, but through a translator. And it, I don't know if you ever we're in a junior high youth group, but it kind of felt like a junior high youth group where you're doing kind of rambunctious games. There's some of the jam guys were doing some chants that they would follow along and dance, and the kids were super into it. It was really fun to watch them. And so they're, if you want to be a penguin you will be. This just kind of silly things like that. And then they're repeating that back in English. So maybe they're learning some English words, but wasn't like English instruction.
yeah.
Because they have, in South Africa, they have English, then they have Afrikaans, and then they have the different languages of the different tribes throughout South Africa. So a lot of language going on.
There's a
over
whole lot
Yeah.
of languages.
there. Yeah.
but most people, by the time they graduate high school, they do know English. In most of those villages, they're learning some
Yeah.
English.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So the focus of this evening is to feed these all these kids, but then before that, there's like kind of a game time, some rambunctious time, and then the jam students gave their testimonies to these kids, and 2 of these students came from nearby villages, and so they were a product of one of these kids, and then now they're years later, in 20, 21 years
they're
old.
doing a year-long program to really, get trained up and have a future and a career and that character development, and so it's really neat to see it come full circle. Yeah.
That's cool.
And then the idea the next morning is they had some pastors and leaders from nearby villages that were going to come, and there was going to be a leadership training from Brenda and I. And so we had some folks come the next morning, and we each had something kind of planned. You never know for that sort of deal, just contextually, and how much English, and wasn't exactly a PowerPoint screen out there or anything. So
I found a whiteboard.
Yeah.
Brenda did use a whiteboard. So I gave a little bit more the inspiration, and Brenda gave a little bit more the practical teaching, and hopefully gave them some things, all morning long to equip these different leaders and stuff. So we kind of prepared and done that. They seemed that they really enjoyed it. It was cool. So
it was really cool. And I think one of the things that really hit me on that morning was afterwards, I think it was Pastor Michael. He was talking about he's a year or two into a 10-year project to translate the Bible into their tribe's language. And he's like, there's 2 million people that speak this language, that there's not a Bible in this language. And I'm like, it's 2024. We're a long way past the Gutenberg Bible. It's a long way.
Yeah, I feel like you could put that into Chat GPT or something.
Yeah, no, it's a completely different landscape over there in a lot of ways. And I was like, so you're telling me there's people that there's not even a Bible in that language? That didn't compute before that trip.
This is an open question. Was there ever a moment when you're like, whoa, we're in Africa? Like, was there ever like a moment where you're just like, take a step back and be like, this is where we're at, kind of thing?
One of the funny things was Friday night, which we're at 9 hours ahead or something like that. Friday night, and Luke and I needed to have a call back here with our engineering and production team about some pretty critical things and some new products and different things like that. So that night we had a little break and we had to schedule this call because we just hadn't been able to do any work. So there's a swing set at the Dream Center. It was like the only place we could just find to sit down that wasn't in the dirt. So Luke and I sat on the swings and did a video call with our engineering and production team back here in Sheridan. And at that moment, I went, we're a long ways from there. We're on a swing set in the middle of like a remote village in Africa.
Swing set at sunset.
And the team was back here. It was pretty funny.
It was.
I don't know. What about you guys? Tyler's question.
I think one of the greatest blessings of my life is to see like different cultures and different people. Every time I've been to Africa, like there's a certain like ache, like in your soul for some of these people who barely have like just basic necessities. So I can't leave a place like that and not it kind of remind me of all my blessings and how I complain about stupid things and so, and then also that there are people that have a lot of joy. When they get a very small blessing, they're so grateful for it. So that was just, I don't know. I've experienced it numerous times. And when we were leaving, I was like, oh, it's good to be back. Cause it brings you back to like, kind of like maybe how more of the world lives than we do. And we're just so dang spoiled. We just have everything at our fingertips. Anything we want to just click and buy now, and most of the world just doesn't live that way. So I think that's always good for me.
That's like a much bigger sense of like when you're on a 10-day backcountry hunt and you're like, oh, a shower just feels.
Yeah, and actually it's similar to that, right? It's very similar. And I always said that like before I started hunting, I did lots of mission trips. So my like roughing it, toughing it was always on a mission trip. And actually, I don't know if I could hunt the way I do without the experience that I had doing mission trips, because it's really about a mental toughness of can I do this, right? And we all can, we just don't think we can. And so hunting and mission trips are very similar in my brain, like how to persevere through them, and because you don't have your normal comforts, so it's good. It's good
there's
for
something
us.
good when
Very
you're
good
just
for us.
stripped away from that. We'd been to Uganda, I've been to Burundi, some other African countries, and places South America. And when you're in those elements, it just strips it away. Life becomes simple. It becomes about the main things, and it's hard not to contemplate the bigger things. Like it's just right. I don't know, Luke. It was your first experience there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of thoughts that go in to kind of dovetail with what you're saying, Brenda. I mean, we're so spoiled. When you're over there, I think when you're here and you have a period of discomfort, your car's not that far away, or your house isn't that far away. Your air conditioning's not that far away. Over there, like the air conditions just don't work that well. Like even driving in the car, it was hot. It's hot all the time. And I think because the discomfort level was like pretty high, I don't know, just kind of reset what is comfort. And like not having a Bible in this language, and so much that, like, man, we're so blessed. We've got so much going on in this country where we live, and to see how, like, just kind of genuinely happy these people were with next to nothing. You're like, man, do I really need 2 fireplaces or whatever the thing is? It's like, it's wild. Mm-hmm. It's wild.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Probably puts in perspective too when you're having a bad day. It's like, oh,
This is not a bad day.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like the cares, like what causes me worry versus what causes these mothers worry. I mean, these mothers got meat, and you could just see they were like, oh my gosh, I get to feed my family this week, and I only have refrigeration for this last week, but I'm going to enjoy every moment of this to give to my families. And like, that's not what I'm normally like worried about,
Because we did that after the training that we did. Then those Dream Center families came, mostly all with the moms and grandmas and things, and then we handed them bags of packaged meat to actually take. They don't have freezers, but they would cook it up that week. They have access to some sort of keeping the meat cool for, a few days or something like that. But the gratitude, they came up, started dancing. I mean, they just, the gratitude is unbelievable.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
One of the most uncomfortable moments for me was after the training that Adam and Brenda did. We ate with these local pastors and church leaders, and they have plates with the mince, which is like basically ground meat, and then the pup, which is basically just think mashed potato. Mm-hmm. And they just hand you the plate, and there's no silverware, and I'm like, my hands are just dirty. Like, there's dirt under my fingernails. I've been on the road for 2 weeks at this point, and my fingernails are longer than they should be, and I look around, and everybody's just pinching some food and putting it in their mouth, and I'm like, oh man, let's do this.
They always say when you're in a different culture, just
do it.
Just look around and observe and do as they do.
Yeah. It actually tastes pretty good.
It was really good.
It was really good.
Yeah.
It was one of those 6 animals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That we were eating.
Yeah, but it was wild. Just like, okay, we're just eating with our hands.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how they do it.
yeah, it's an interesting culture thing. Yeah.
It is.
And it's cool to get to the point where, like, you can just go with it and not, like, criticize a different culture for doing it differently, even though we're not doing that when we get home. But it's really cool to just, like, humble yourself and be like, I'm going to enter their world, and I'm going to be as they are, and be totally fine with that, with no judgment and just like,
you just kind
let's
of
do
become
this.
a part of it. You're not like, well, this is how you ought to do it, and you have silverware. No, you just do how
just
they're.
Yeah, let me get my backcountry spork out.
Just go with it.
There's always some.
It's
That's
pretty
what I
cool.
always say. There's always every culture I go to, that's outside of this country. There's just things you can learn. There's some things that drive you nuts, but there's always things that you can take back and learn from every culture. I feel, and I think to not is, I don't know, sometimes arrogant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I look back on the trip, but it's 2 weeks ago now, a week and a half ago, I guess. And I think the moments I'm going to remember the most weren't the hunt. It wasn't the hunt. The hunts were cool. It was super awesome, actually, like bucket list. But the time in the village with those people was pretty cool. It was amazing.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
And it's cool to know. I think for what Gerard's doing with Phambili, and for us to be a part of that, so we'll be be looking for a film. We'll be coming out with a film this year to help promote it and kind of see what's going on. But it's it's a good reminder that it's not always all about hunting. So as passionate as we are about that, there's other things.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
yeah, it was a cool experience. So we drove back to there, and we got on airplanes and we went places. So Brenda and I ended up leaving there and left Luke, and he joined his family, and We had an international show.
Yeah,
in
basically
Europe.
headed to Ewa in Germany, but but that's not important as cool as what you guys did.
Yeah, well, we went over to Namibia. We had some friends there that we've hunted with before, and went over to Namibia for a few days just to kind of relax and maybe shoot a few animals kind of on the way home and hang out with friends in Namibia. So we did that, and
The goal was
Had
to
a great
sleep a little more than we had.
yeah, so we slept, we took naps, and just took a few days. And I took a couple management animals. Ended up shooting an oryx with kind of this bent horn.
Yeah.
That's super cool. Luke, I think you have pictures of that maybe.
I do.
And then, nope, spoiler. Oh, there's the
Yeah.
oryx. Kind of had a bent
Do
horn.
they call it oryx or do they call them gemsbuck, right? Or
Usually kind of oryx, but they're
Oryx.
both, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Gemsbuck.
I don't really
And then-
know why one calls them one and one calls them the other. Because I was in Namibia and they all called them gemsbuck, so
Did they?
I'm not
Yeah.
really sure.
And then
That's
took another wildebeest too, just a management one, a real old one, which was fun. But one of things kind of on Brenda's list is she really thinks that both waterbuck and nyala are really pretty animals, and she's always wanted to take one. And they do have some nice waterbuck in Namibia. And so we spent over a day trying to find Brenda a really good waterbuck.
Yeah, it was fun.
And
Good time.
that was awesome. So Brenda shot an incredible waterbuck at the end of one of the days.
So if you don't know what a water buck is, those are the ones with the circles on their butt.
Yeah, you can't see it right there.
You know what I mean? Like it's like the target is right
Yeah.
around their tail. So
Another one-shot kill from Brenda. We hunted all morning long and kind of spooked some, and then saw this one. We were up on a mountain and saw him 1,200 yards away. Did a stalk, spent an hour and a half. He bedded, got up, and kind of hunted him. Took some sunset photos, and Brenda got her kind of dream waterbuck, which is very, very beautiful bull. So it was fun.
it was awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Really
sweet.
good time.
Yeah, and that's with Kovas, Kowas, Jacques and Ansi and Eleni and the crew over there. If you're looking for a great opportunity in Namibia, I'd highly recommend Kovas Adventure or Safari Adventures. They do a phenomenal job, provide a very good service, have, I think, 400,000 acres of free-range hunting, access through all their concessions, their property and some others, have access to all sorts of critters, put on just a top-notch thing, much drier environment over there, a lot less grass. You know, Namibia is a whole different deal, but it's really just kind of old school Africa in a lot of ways. And so, they're just a shout out to them. They're just a great crew, an amazing family. Jacques is a phenomenal PH. Took over for his dad that was a PH for a long time, and they just are really, really, really good people. So trust them a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to meet Jacques at DSC 2
Yeah.
years ago, and they're very fun.
They are just, and Ansi, his mom, is just an absolute sweetheart. And
Well, I told Adam, I was like, we want to go over there. And he's like, well, what do you want to shoot? I'm like, I don't just want to sit and talk to Hansi.
they're just really, really good people. So we went over just to hang out, shot some management animals. Brenda took this waterbuck and spent some time sitting around the fire with them, telling stories up late at night, and just it was super fun. And then we both were sick and traveled home. The end.
Adam got bit by something, and that's why
In the
he had
village.
a fever. Yeah, so
It was probably a spider. Yeah.
Man, I'm
ended up-
rethinking what I said again.
No, there's some. One of the things that I thought was interesting over there is very few, even of the birds, look like the birds we have here. You go to Canada, you go to Alaska, you're like, oh, there's bald eagle. There's a sparrow. I don't know. Over there, you're like, I have no idea what that is. It's a weird looking bird. They had a magpie looking bird, but that was the closest thing that was like the same.
what was that turquoise bird? Like a kingfisher?
Oh, kingfisher?
Kingfisher?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a
a
kingfisher,
certain
but
subspecies.
Didn't look like the
Turquoise.
kingfishers we have.
Yeah, they're more blue here, right?
This was like,
Turquoise.
yeah, almost like
It was
neon
beautiful.
blue.
Yeah. It was
That's
really-
cool.
It was
wild.
beautiful.
Everything's just different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really cool experience. Two different experiences with from
Yeah.
Jacques and Nancy to
Yeah.
Phambili. I mean,
Mhm.
for people that are like trying to decide where to go. I mean, I walked around at Safari Club in Nashville this year, and you're like, how do you narrow it down? How do you know who you want to go with? I think you need to go to a show like that or call some people and get to know the people, because you're going to spend a lot of time with them.
You do?
And I think what was unique about garage and Phambili setup is, it's different. You know, I think there's probably better accommodations at some other outfits, but I don't know that you'll get the same experience that you would have with somebody like Garage. He's doing it for a reason, and it's not necessarily the hunting. And to me, that made it really amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool.
So,
Yeah,
Well,
great people.
Yeah, let's kind of wrap this up. We'll put a couple of links in the description, so
Yeah.
if you want to learn more about this experience, you can. Or we have our email on our mark at weatherby.com.
Yep.
If you have any questions, shoot us there. So I appreciate you guys. That was a great story. So thanks for filling me in. Until next time.